Let's talk about covering current events in your homeschool, why we should do it, who should be involved, and how we can go about it simply and effectively. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. Joining me today is my friend and co-worker, Christy Hassang. Christy, so good to have you with us.
Thanks.
Current events. Does that hold a special place in your heart?
It does indeed.
Why?
Because it's so important. To me, it is as if all the learning that you're doing about the past, about art and culture and music and science, it all comes together in current events because you take what you've learned and apply it to what's going on today.
So let's start with defining what do you mean by current event? What is a current event?
In my mind, a current event is something that's going on, happening right now, but it can have had a long lead up. It can be maybe not just a newspaper article that you're reading or a little YouTube video that you're watching. It can be an op-ed piece in a newspaper or a magazine or a blog or a vlog. It can be anything that causes you to think. And usually with a current event, there are two or more ideas that may be in conflict with each other. There will be a side against and for what has happened, and they'll give many reasons for that. And it's really interesting to go back and understand the background of how this happened. Why is this happening now? And it brings all of our learning together in one place.
So who would you say should be involved in this discussion of current events? What grade levels?
I have personally only used it with high schoolers. They have enough of a background that they have accumulated over the years of knowledge of history and science, and they have something to draw on to have an opinion of their own. Mm-hmm. And any younger than that, it seems that they're still wanting to dress like their friend Linda and wanting to have the same opinion. And high school, by that time, they're willing to step out on their own and have their own opinions and their own beliefs, and they can explain why.
It sounds like this would also be a good opportunity to teach them how to explain why.
Yes.
With love.
Yes.
With candor, but with respect for the other person as well.
Right.
And you do current events with the high schoolers whom you teach,
yes.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
How do they do with this challenge?
We have a huge emphasis at the Charlotte Mason Cottage School, where I teach, on civil discourse. We, in high school especially, we're very discussion-based. The students do a lot of their reading at home and their writing, and then we bring all of that background to class and have discussions, and they almost never agree. It's very different if there's a common unanimity on the part of the class. So we teach them how to disagree agreeably, and you have to be able to explain why you think what you think. You can't just say, well, I agree with so-and-so. Well, why is that? What is it in history? Where are you drawing from to get that opinion? And it's just, it brings all the learning together to me.
So I'm very excited that you helped us put together a current events discussion guide that is just a free download. People will leave, actually you can go to simplycm.com/current events to get your copy of this. But it has sources that you can get, student-friendly sources from which to get current events. And these sources are not biased in one direction or another.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
That we have these sources for students.
And the one that you especially like, talk a little bit about the one you've used with your kids.
Yes, that is
the Student News Daily
Student
website.
News Daily. Yes, I've used them for many years with many different groups of students over the years. And they have a daily news article every day. They post a new one Monday through Friday that tells about someplace in the world, an issue that's arisen for this people group, a scientific discovery that's just happened, an artifact that's just been discovered, archaeology. It runs the whole gamut. It's not just political and historical. So there's something for everyone. And if you're just doing current events once a week, which is what we try to do, play to your strengths. What's your student interested in?
So you don't have to try and cover every single story.
No, absolutely not. Just choose one. And this particular website gives you background so that you don't have to do any research on it yourself. If you don't know anything about the topic, that's no problem. They tell you everything you need to know. They ask discussion questions at the end. And you can ask any question that you want to ask of your student or of yourself to try to explain, what do you think about that? Well, why do you think that? What makes you think that? What are you drawing your conclusions from?
I love the questions that you helped put together here. So we have step 1, select one news story or current event to discuss and read or listen to it with your student. They need to have read this too, not just hearing your summary of the current event.
Correct.
They need to do that research as well. And then step 2 is, if it is centered around a specific location, find that location on a globe or a map.
Yes.
And we'll discuss the importance of that in a moment. And then step 3, we give 10 or 11 questions just to choose 1 or 2 of these questions.
Yes.
Don't try and go through everything with every current event. What are the main arguments on both sides of this recent debate? Or how might this current event affect different groups of people? And what role does media bias play in how it was reported? For students who've been doing this for quite a while, you can say, how have you seen this issue evolve over time? Another one is, what biblical principles do you think are related to this situation? What if a scientific discovery or a technological advantage here, what benefits do you see from this? What drawbacks do you see from this? How do you think this current event will shape the future of your generation? All of these, you can really get into a good discussion. And even if you don't have a whole classroom of kids coming from different perspectives, even in your own family, you could easily have 2 different perspectives.
Absolutely.
And so that discussion is going to be golden, I think.
And trying to do it in a civil manner is such a wonderful life skill that we're losing in the larger culture right now.
Yeah.
And it's very valuable, and we can't sustain a democracy without it.
And they can practice that. That communication skill is so important to all of life. It will be important to them in their relationships now and in
Yes.
the future, and in their job endeavors now and in the future. So having a current event platform on which to practice that type of open, honest, but respectful communication, it almost is like a practice session for when we have to sit down and have these parent and teen discussions about events in their own lives.
Yes, this is almost like Plutarch in a way, because it doesn't have to do with you. If something's happening on the other side of the world, it's not personal, so you can really step back and think, what's my worldview have to say about this? What's the Bible say about this? How should I think about this?
Yes.
And maybe lay down some groundwork of your life's, your basic beliefs, your life's tenets, and make some decisions before it's something that is happening to you in the moment. So you will have already discussed and made some pretty good life's decisions before you get there yourself.
I like that perspective. There's a wonderful article in a Parents' Review that contains some interesting comments about current events that you shared with me. Would you be willing to share that with everybody
Oh,
who's
absolutely.
listening? This is by Miss Heath, who wrote it. Charlotte was the editor, so she edited this. And it's tucked in the middle of a geography article, isn't it?
It is.
But the way it's kind of, because we know the purpose of geography in Charlotte's mind was to get to know the people of the earth, not just what color is this country on the map,
Right.
but getting to know the people and forming these relations as a global citizen. So this gem about current events is tucked into this article. Would you read that for us?
Absolutely. Another branch of geography, so she's calling current events a branch of geography, that must not be forgotten, is the knowledge to be gained from a study of the daily papers. It is most important that children should know something of the various places of interest mentioned in the newspapers, that they should be able to follow the great trade routes, the march of an army, or the progress of any explorer on the map. And in fact, they take an intelligent interest in the events of the present day. How necessary it is not to neglect this branch of geography is shown by the fact that lads of 17 to 18, asked in a general knowledge paper to state where and what was the Yukon, gave such replies as a port in China, a river in Japan, and this too in the year when the rush to the Yukon after gold was at its height. And then she ends with this little nugget. An education that allows such ignorance of daily affairs as this to exist seems indeed faulty, and one might almost say useless.
Wow, yes, that is right to the heart. Why would an education be considered useless in Charlotte Mason's eyes, in Miss Heath's eyes, if it did not involve this knowledge of current events? And one thought that comes to mind is that so much of education from a Charlotte Mason perspective was about being useful in the world. Not just useful to myself, but it was very much relating to other people, seeing the relations between what is going on around you, knowledge of, yes, self, but knowledge of God, knowledge of other people, knowledge of the world around you. Those were the big areas of the education, the big goals. And so an education that is all, what's in it for me? Do I like this? Am I comfortable doing just what I want to do? Is not useful to the world, to other people around you. That might be one
I think
aspect.
there may be more.
But that's a starting point.
That is a good starting
Something
point.
for us to ponder as we head into the next days. Something for our own personal growth. Thanks for joining me, Christy. Thanks for your help putting together this download. I think it will help a lot of families.
I hope so.
Be sure to get your download, simplycm.com/current events. Just once a week, 15 minutes, discussing current events with your students to help them learn these great communication skills, as well as how to think about what's going on in the world and bring all of these principles that they've been learning to play in that discussion. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.